All right, and welcome everyone to the Ginette Biro Podcast. I'm Ginette Biro, and I'm so grateful to be here sharing some really cool info with you guys. And I gotta tell you, this episode today kind of jumped the queue. Not that it was necessarily in the queue already, but it was a direct download that I got from one of the Ascended Masters, and it was really imperative that I share it right away. So that's why this one is coming in before the Q&A podcast. So I just want you guys to know, those of you that put in some questions for the Q&A podcast, thank you so much. They are great, and I'm going to get to all of them next week. And also, some of those questions I may do on a Making Sense of Life video, because some of them really just desire to be like heard on their own because they have such an impact. So if you don't find that your question is answered in the podcast, check out the Making Sense of Life videos. They're on my YouTube channel, as well as I post them on Facebook and Instagram as well. So you can find me as Ginette Biro Medium on Facebook and Instagram for those videos, and there's a ton of them. So anyways, back to today's message. Today's message, the title of it basically is Fear is the Contagion and Disclosure Starts with Self. Now, I got to tell you, this whole message came to me, oh man, it was just a couple nights ago, and we were going to be having like a family movie night, and Spirit came in and they're like, we have a message for you. And I was like, okay, sure. And they're like, tonight. I'm like, okay, sure, no problem. And but before I knew it, I found myself downstairs in my office, just on the floor here. And normally what I'll do is I'll sit down and I'll set up some stones, and I'll sage, or I'll smudge with some Palo Santo. I'll, maybe pull some cards, or like I have a process to get into my sacred space to channel, right? Like I've talked about it on many videos, how to create sacred space or sacred intentions. And I just barely sat down, grabbed my paper to, get myself organized, didn't even set anything else up yet. And Sanat Kumara, who's the Ascended Master, who is known as a regent of the earth in humanity, so he's really involved in humanity's ascension, he came through and he's like, grab a pen. And I was like, okay. I'm like, well, I have questions for you, right? Is what I was thinking. Like, I was thinking they were showing up to answer questions I had. But he had some opening statements, is what he called them, to share. And it was about 4 pages worth. It was really interesting. So this is what I'm excited to show you guys, or to explain to you and read everything that came out. It was really, really, really interesting. So this is what happened. So Sanat Kumara came in, and right away he said, go deeper and tune into the why. Fear is the contagion. You all fail to see this truth. The fear that resides within you is the contagion. I am not saying COVID isn't real, but the real issue is fear. And so I want to stop for a second and really clarify, he was not saying COVID is not a real thing, and I am not saying COVID is not a real thing. It is a real thing, and I've even seen it from the perspective of spirit. And even when COVID first started and the 3 guides of light came in, they said COVID's real. So please hear me when I say that. But COVID is helping to expose the real issue that is rampant on our planet, which is fear, using fear, living in fear, and making decisions by fear instead of conscious choice. Okay, so that's where this is going. So he said, what makes it difficult to pinpoint or fix, in your view, is that the reason for fear is not unified, but the experience of fear itself is. The reasons differ. We have to help you see it is about bypassing the reasons that hold you back from looking into what the fear is telling you. Most importantly, what is the fear really telling you about you? And that had exclamation marks behind it. And then this was in bold. That is what matters. That is the root. What is the fear telling you? 2 people may share the same reason for fear, but the root of it in many cases differs. COVID, vaccines, power struggles, and the unknown. The triggers come from fears, but the roots are what matters. Ask yourself why. Why am I scared? And then when you get that answer, go a layer deeper, and then a layer deeper. and then a layer deeper until you get to the bottom or as far as you can reach. It is from that point that you choose what you do next. That is full disclosure of self. This is where you start. If you want full disclosure, you have to know self first. Humanity says it is ready to know more and be more, but there are still so many who are afraid to know more because that would mean they would have to open up into that personal, intimate space of vulnerability. We, as the Ascended Masters, can only push in so far before it becomes forced. And force is not part of our contract, nor is it part of our willingness. Mother Earth, however, has a sovereign right to act through force. She can exert her will as she needs, and that is a different alignment than what we have with humanity. And I thought that was really interesting. So he says, there are many beautiful and awakened human beings on your planet, many more who have awakened to higher, loving, open, and compassionate thought during COVID. And we are so very pleased, and as a result, we're able to offer more aid and insight to them now. However, there are still many that did not open or awaken. The tipping of the scales on December 21st, 2020 was just enough. As you would say, 49 to 51%. However, the negative polarity of fear hung on and has now backfired by creating a greater polarity of fear. The fear of being right and the fear of being wrong. This creates tension, which only fuels fear into then blind fear. This is when one or both sides becomes blind to changes, even when presented, and progress then halts. When aggression becomes the pathway for this fear, we then see the scales tip backwards. This is what seems to be happening now, is what he was saying. We are surprised by this, and in the past, Mother Earth followed the ebbs and flows of humanity, but she made a point of not going backwards on December 21st, 2020. So here we are now, humanity is polarized to an extreme, and Mother Earth is now speaking loudly to all the humans on Earth. Fires, floods, earthquakes, tsunamis, enough, she says. No more being passive. With this, light workers and sensitives are feeling torn and exhausted. They feel humanity moving backward in timelines, yet Mother Earth moving forward, and it is creating a torsion in the veil between them. The timelines are pulling apart. This is causing ruptures, cracks, and tears in the veil, which allows for manipulation from low vibe energies to wreak havoc. This is what we are working hard to mend and clean up. And I thought this was so key in my understanding personally of what was going on, is because I couldn't understand why there was this, like I had been shown and I've said many times, it's like a zip tie. Mother Earth said she's pulling a zip tie, you can't go backwards. There's no going backwards from the solstice, the winter solstice in 2020. But then why was all this like rearranging of timelines and things not aligning in the way they were going to? And that's because humanity went backward, but Mother Earth is going forward. And I didn't realize, I mean, I know we all have our own individual timelines, but I guess I assumed that Mother Earth and humanity kind of moved as one in a sense in timelines, but I guess not. And so the two of them pulling apart is causing this like tension and then a torsion in the veil, which allows it to rupture and crack, create fissures. Also, it makes it really thin, and I've seen a lot of spirits kind of stepping through the veil. I'll see it literally. They'll kind of like open up almost like kind of curtains or like a crack, and they'll open it up and look through and be like, oh, wrong spot, and go back to wherever they were. It's so interesting. And so that made a lot of sense to me, that we had two separate things going on, which isn't usually how it works. That's why they keep saying this is a new template, because the old template was that humanity and Mother Earth would kind of move as one, but now we have humanity moving one way and Mother Earth moving the other way. That's new. So to go back to his message, he says, this is new. Not entirely new, but new in that there is no template for this. The old template at this point was destruction, Earth annihilation. With humanity at this point, Mother Earth would have had floods or meteors, something that would pretty much wipe out humanity. But Mother Earth is saying, I am not doing that again. She's going forward. So he said, we know you are tired and we know you feel deserted and many even confused. But hold your light, but not in fear. Hold it in grace. This energy of grace helps us repair the cracks as it shines a light as to where they are. There are many. And so that's what was really important in this message, in this piece, was if we fall into fear, we fall into a lower frequency. And when we're in that lower frequency, we're not as bright and shiny as a soul, right? The higher the frequency, the brighter the energy that comes from it. The lower the frequency, the more dim the energy. So if we stay in fear, we stay in a lower energy. But when we're not in fear and we're in conscious choice, it doesn't mean we're just simply joyful, but we're in conscious choice, we have a higher frequency which can expose cracks around us, which is what the higher realms are wanting to come in and help mend. Because then it helps us. And it helps pull these two opposing timelines and directions back together again. It reinforces that barrier that's kind of being ripped apart a little bit. So again, this was everything that was said in the opening statements, right? Like that's a lot of stuff. So at this point is when I started asking some questions as well. And so I said to him, I said, okay, what happens to humanity the rest of this year? And he said, it is the people that decide. People create what happens. It is an open template. This is why we are so heavy on choice. But the Ascended Masters are stepping in more now, and they are stepping in to help solidify and mend the cracks in the veil, and helping the light workers and sensitives to heal their energies. And to me, when I saw that, it kind of looked like the way light workers look and sensitives look is like flat pancakes, right? Like we've been rolled over and now we're just flat pancakes. So they're coming to like bring life back into that. And they said, for that to happen, light workers and sensitives, and when I say that, sensitives is you may not think or feel that you are a medium or a psychic or a healer or a channeler or an intuitive, but you may feel a lot, right? Which means you are some of those things, but that's what is considered a sensitive, okay? People that are sensitive to the energies. So he said light workers and sensitives have to authentically align with their heart. That means compassion for self and compassion for others and their choices. Judgment is only for you to place upon yourself and then realign if needed. Until humanity embraces this, the divide will persist. And really that's saying like, look at yourself. Choose your directions based on the highest good of what can benefit you and those around you, coming from you. Align with your heart space, right? So then I asked him, how long does this last? And he said, we do not know yet. It is new templates and your choices dictate so much. So again, that's why Spirit keeps saying choose, consciously choose, step out of fear, come to conscious choice. It has to be real, truthful choices that get us out of here instead of reactory or reactionary choices from fear. And then I asked, so how do we help Mother Earth? And he said, listen to her. And when he said this, it was like I could hear the wind and know that I could, put my forehead on Mother Earth or my feet on Mother Earth or my hands on the earth and hear her. So there's something about the wind. We need to use that and light codes and embody her wisdom, is what he said. So I'll find out more about exactly how that works. So to me, it was pretty profound that it all came out so clear and so fast. And the message really is about all of us digging deeper, and it's about yet another waterfall and another waterfall with where things are going now. But I thought his explanation of how humanity was going backwards and Earth was going forwards was really profound. And because Earth is going forwards, humanity can choose to go forwards. And the way humanity chooses to go forwards is if every individual person makes a choice of going forwards. And I gotta say, I understand it's much more complicated than we're just gonna go forwards. Everything's fine. It's not that, but it's like, again, it's like a diet. You don't just decide, I'm down 20 pounds. You have to consciously choose each time you put something in your mouth, what it's gonna be and if it's gonna get you in the right direction of what you want. And it takes time. So that's what I'm getting at with this choice. It's conscious choices to create the change you want. So, what else do I have to say here? Okay. The other thing too is that Mother Earth is going to continue to make choices in regards to Earth events. So I really don't feel we're done with seeing some pretty significant Earth events happening. I know we have some pretty huge floods happening, even in Germany, those floods. We've got fires here in Canada. Much of Canada is having fires right now, especially in BC. There's fires in the States. There's lots of stuff going on, and I really don't think it's done yet, unfortunately. But Mother Earth is speaking in the way that she needs to speak to create the responses needed. So really, if we tapped into the true energy, we would have more control to change the narrative and direction of where we go. And I think there's so much more to this. So if you listen to this podcast and you really listen to it on the many layers in which Sanat Kumara delivered this message, there's so much that can be gained from it. So, and again, the last thing I want to talk about too is just to touch again on the idea of full disclosure. So many people want full disclosure, and I've even asked this of, extraterrestrials, light beings, spirit, like why, if, I communicate with ETs, why don't they just come down and show who they are? And, they've said, oh, humanity's not quite ready for that. And I'm like, well, are they though? And it was really interesting. Their concept of full disclosure is that we keep pointing fingers at the government and spirit, and I've been guilty of this too, okay? But the question is, are you really ready to take it on? Or is humanity really ready to take it on? And if you're judging outward, busy pointing fingers at everything outward, what are you missing inward? What is not being fulfilled inward that's causing you to have to point outward? So again, where we're wanting full disclosure, check out where is required, or what is requiring full disclosure within self, because it's something that is reflecting back at you that is asking to be understood about self. So that'll help us really shift our concepts of judgment of the actions of others, right? So anyways, and the very last thing I wanted to say is something that they really reiterated for me, which hit home for me, was when you can't let something go, when there is a thought that keeps coming in your head, or something you're just needing to research or figure out or talk to people about, if you can't let it go, there's a reason it keeps being plopped in your pathway, meaning there's something in there for you to gain, to understand, to release, to whatever it may be. Follow the insatiable leads. Let them show you what it is you need to learn, and you'll know you're done learning it when the insatiability or the pull releases. Okay, that helps you discover full disclosure of self, or more disclosure of self. Allow your heart space to lead you where you need to go, to find the things you need to find so you can better understand yourself. So, I think that's everything that I got from them. It really was such a profound channel and download from them, all about fear. So just consider where fear is really playing a part in your life, and taking the actions for you that help you with the fear. And just one example before I let you guys go is, if you find, watching the news creates a ton of fear energy in you, then maybe it's not about so much as like, I'm never going to watch news again, and you just shut the news off and never watch it again, and you never know what's going on in the world. It's not that. But what if maybe 2 nights a week you don't watch the news, right? Or a couple days a week you don't scroll the news feeds to see what's going on. The world will continue another day, and you'll be okay if you don't know for one day what's going on. But what happens is, in that one day, you allow your body to come back to peace, right? And so I'm just using news as an example. It could be many different things. So consider where fear is playing a part in your life, and then you'll be able to find more peace. So I hope that helps you guys. That was just such a profound one for me, so I know I'm going to be pondering it for a while. And in terms of other things you guys can do to deepen your journey and your access, Do check out the Avalon Spirit Facebook group. I'm posting on there every day, and there's lots of other beautiful people, also some from Avalon Spirit, that are posting different offerings, weekly card readings on there, lots of different posts. And like I said, the Making Sense of Life videos are on there as well. And also, if you guys are interested, do check out avalonspirit.com for all the different personal journey guides that we have on there, from Akashic record readings to animal healing, intuitive readings, astrology, birth chart readings, past life regressions, you name it. There's lots of goodness on there, as well as some course offerings like my Lightworker Mentorship course starting in September, Cosmic Consciousness, Avalon Spirit Club. I mean, I could go on, but I will let you guys go now. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you guys have a wonderful week.